The young mother, just days away from giving birth, shot and killed early this morning.
That's right. Shakiya Pridgen's family says that she was just lying in bed with her two young children when those shots came through her window.
Investigators believe they found the trigger for this killing, and it wasn't a stranger, and it wasn't random. According to a probable cause affidavit, the man accused of murdering Shakiya Pridgen had a problem with the name she'd chosen for their unborn son. That single detail, buried inside a charging document, may be the closest thing this case has to a motive, and we'll get to exactly what it means. But first, the crime itself. Early on the morning of June 16, 2026, at an apartment complex called The Woods at Peppertree in DeKalb County, Georgia, 23-year-old Shakiya Pridgen was shot and killed. She was 9 months pregnant, due to give birth within 2 weeks. Someone fired roughly a dozen rounds through her bedroom window while she slept. Shakiya did not survive. Neither did her unborn son. Her two young children, asleep beside her, were physically unharmed. Within days, DeKalb County investigators identified a suspect and made an arrest. How they got there and what the evidence actually revealed once they pulled it apart is where this story truly begins. DeKalb County police treated the apartment as an active crime scene within minutes of arriving. Officers recovered spent shell casings outside the building, scattered beneath the bedroom window. From those casings and the bullet holes left in the glass and the wall behind it, investigators mapped trajectory, working backward from the point of impact to determine where the shooter had stood when the shots were fired. That work confirmed something critical. The gunfire came from outside. This was not a domestic incident that happened indoors. Someone had walked up to that window and fired in. With the scene processed, investigators turned to the surrounding complex. They canvassed the property, going door to door, interviewing residents and people close to Shakiya to understand who might have had reason to target her. That groundwork ran alongside a separate, decisive line of evidence: traffic camera footage from the area surrounding the complex. Detectives pulled that footage and used it to place a specific vehicle near the scene around the time of the shooting. That vehicle led them to a name. Within days, the DeKalb County Sheriff's Office, working with the United States Marshal Service, identified 26-year-old Devin Anthony as their suspect. A coordinated operation tracked him to a home in Riverdale, Georgia, where he was taken into custody without incident. DeKalb County Sheriff Melody Maddox said plainly her office considers it essential to use every resource available to apprehend individuals who threaten the safety of residents, calling the shooting an act of senseless violence that devastated a family and a community. The arrest closed the most urgent phase of this case. It did not close the investigation, which was only just getting started. The arrest answered who. The probable cause affidavit answers why, according to investigators, and it points closer to home than anyone outside the family expected. According to that affidavit, Shakiya and Devin Anthony had a prior relationship. He is identified there and by her family as the father of her unborn son. The two had recently separated, the affidavit states, following accusations of infidelity. It also cites something more specific: a disagreement over the name Shakiya had chosen for their son, Karen. Anthony, it says, did not agree with that choice. These remain allegations in a charging document, not facts a court has confirmed. But the charge carrying the most weight, malice murder, requires proof of intent. A documented relationship, a breakup, and a dispute over a child's name give prosecutors a clearer thread to argue this was deliberate, not random. Police have not issued a separate statement confirming this account, and any defense may still contest it at trial. This was not Devin Anthony's very first murder charge. Court records show a Fulton County grand jury indicted him in September 2021 on charges including murder, felony murder, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, and possession of a firearm during a felony, tied to a separate shooting death. That case never reached trial. In November 2024, Anthony accepted a negotiated plea under Georgia's First Offender Act, which allows certain defendants to avoid a permanent felony record after completing their sentence. The murder charge was reduced to voluntary manslaughter. A judge sentenced him to 11 months in prison, followed by 19 years and 1 month on probation, a total term of 20 years. He did not serve the full 20-year sentence behind bars, and he did not stay clean on probation. In February, a court order found Anthony had tested positive for THC. His probation was revoked for a period of 60 days, and he was ordered into anger management classes within 30 days of release. He had been free under those conditions for only months when Shakiya Pridgen was killed. For Shakiya's family, that timeline is the hardest part to accept. A system meant to manage a violent offender's return to society had already flagged a problem months before this shooting, and that offender was still walking free. Her mother, Verdina Scott, said it plainly. He got a second chance, and Shakiya doesn't get a second chance. Her father, Paco Pridgen, was just as direct, saying he doesn't understand how someone can murder a person and walk away with probation. Shakiya Pridgen grew up far from DeKalb County. Her roots were in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, where she was raised, where she was a member of ARP Church in Gastonia, and where, by her mother's account, she became who she was before settling in Georgia. In Decatur, she was building something of her own. She had just moved into her first apartment without a roommate or partner, a milestone her family points to when describing her independence. She was raising a 1-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, and preparing for a third child. According to her mother, she wanted to marry eventually and settle into a stable home, and she attended church regularly. Verdina Scott, her mother, lived in the same complex, close enough to be part of her daughter's daily routine. Paco Pridgen, her father, has spoken about a parent's instinct to protect a child, regardless of age. Both describe Shakiya as someone working toward a future for her family, not simply a young mother caught in tragedy, but a woman building a life on her own terms. Here is exactly where this case stands right now, separating what's confirmed from what's still pending. Devin Anthony faces 4 charges: malice murder, feticide, aggravated assault with intent to murder, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Malice murder is Georgia's most serious homicide charge, applied when prosecutors believe a killing was intentional and carried out with deliberate disregard for human life. Feticide applies specifically to the death of Shakiya's unborn son, Karen, treating that loss as a separate count under Georgia law. Anthony made his first court appearance the day after his arrest and is being held without bond at the DeKalb County Jail. No grand jury has yet returned an indictment, and no trial date has been scheduled. A first appearance only establishes the charges against a defendant. It does not determine guilt. Separately, the DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office has confirmed Shakiya's identity, but has not yet released a final cause and manner of death. That office has noted autopsy findings can take up to 90 days to complete, and results will not be made public while the case remains under investigation or moving through court. Every single charge listed here is an allegation. Anthony has not been convicted of any crime, and the legal process that determines guilt or innocence has only just begun. In the days after the shooting, Shakiya's family turned to 2 things: practical support and public remembrance. A GoFundMe campaign was set up to help cover funeral costs for Shakiya and her unborn son, Karen, and to support the 2 children she left behind. The fundraiser spread quickly online, amplified by the same coverage that had made this case national news within days of the arrest. On June 20th, family and community members gathered for a vigil to honor Shakiya's life. It was a moment separate from the courtroom, focused on remembering who she was, not what had been done to her. Her 2 surviving children remain in the care of family members. Beyond that, their daily lives have stayed private, and nothing further has been made public about how they are coping. That privacy has, for now, been respected. So, what exactly happens from here? This case is still in its early stages, and the next steps follow a fairly standard path for charges at this level. A DeKalb County grand jury will need to review the evidence and decide whether to formally indict Anthony. If an indictment is returned, he'll be arraigned, entering a plea of guilty or not guilty in open court. Given the charges, this case will move through DeKalb County Superior Court. None of these steps have a confirmed date. Cases with multiple felony counts, involving a defendant with a prior record, often take months to reach trial. We open this video with a single detail from an affidavit. Everything since has tested that detail against the record, and that work is far from finished. 2 weeks. That's how close Shakiya Pridgen was to holding her son. Instead, Her family is meeting with prosecutors instead of pediatricians, planning a funeral instead of a nursery. What this case has shown, more than anything, is how much can change between an arrest and an actual conviction. A man already moved through the system once and walked back out into the world. Whether the system accounts for that the second time is something only a courtroom can decide now, not a headline. Shakiya Pridgen was 23. Karen never took a breath outside his mother's body. Their case did not stay open long in terms of finding a suspect, but it is nowhere near finished in terms of finding justice. We're going to keep following this one past the arrest, the indictment, and on to a verdict and a sentence. If that's the kind of coverage you want, subscribe.